everybody, Mickey was out today. There was a few things that he saw. He saw something that was part of Henry VIII. Henry VIII was born in supposedly 1491, died 1547, and these are all in brick, red brick. So what we're going to do is we're going to just play a little bit of his video, and then we're carrying on with our melted reality, who's well into red brick. Anyway, let's continue. Just to say, Mickey lives in South London, in Surrey, but it's still South London, but on the suburb side of it. But anyway, let's continue.
At the moment, I'm trying to get to this massive red brick wall. Looks like the side of a church. Said it was Henry VIII greenhouse. And this is a wonder. And it's only half a wall. Oh, this is one side. What the is happening? Crazy. Just wish I could get over the fence. I'm too old. Oh. Fighting through the bush. I think I was in South America again. Squeeze, Mickey. What is this? It's just a bad camera, but every arch hole's covered. It's like it's deliberate. Now she finished off tops. Just wish I can get round the back. Even though the back is flat, just all red brick, all the same, but no arches. Being left to ruin. How sad. Modern brick. That's been repaired. seem to be very deep. The path has been risen. And this is the back of the wall. Crazy. My school.
Hey, I'm here this afternoon for Mark and evening for me, our Melted Reality Channel. Hello.
Hey Karen, how's it going? Thank you again for having me.
Absolute
love
pleasure.
Love talking to you.
It's nice talking to you. It's quite a privilege to know you, to be honest.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just appreciate you letting me come on and letting me talk about mythology and just hanging out with you. And I loved hanging out with Christian also last time. So
yeah, he's away at the moment. He's staying
him.
with family. Yeah. So if he sees our message, maybe he'll come on. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is a chat we've got with him, but he's away at the moment. But yeah, we'll have another one with Christian. Don't worry. It's only me today.
That's all I want. I'll get you all by myself.
Well, lucky you.
Yes.
Yeah, you've been stuck in a bit of snow. You were actually out filming and then got stuck with snow.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a family little vacation we do once a year, and I just only got a few pictures before it started snowing and ice and stuff, so I really didn't get out. We were almost 2,000 feet up, and we couldn't go anywhere. We had to stay at the house for like almost 3 days. So, but it was nice. It was really nice. But yeah, I didn't get much video or anything. But I got a few pictures I'll put out later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's a bit annoying because I met Mickey this week, and I went out for a day with him. And I just couldn't help. I was going to get my camera out. Click. I was going to get my camera out. Click. Click. I've got to do it. Click. 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 And he was really sweet because he understood that I wanted to tell people what we'd seen. So he understood. But really, I shouldn't have got the camera out. But then if you don't get the camera out, you don't get the pictures, do you?
No. Exactly.
And I want to say something as well. Your camera, right? When I know you haven't maybe always got people in it or anything, but the quality on your camera is amazing. Cannot believe that the news don't have better quality cameras. Their quality is so bad.
I know, and actually it's just it's an iPhone 11, and what I do is it just once I get focused, you press the screen again, and it focuses more, and it's really just all about being really still as far as this phone.
What, you do that all on your phone?
Yes, I do all on my phone, video and everything.
Really? Wow, what phone have you got?
It's an iPhone 11.
Right, so you've got quite a good one. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now I just ordered a drone. I'm really excited about it. So I'm gonna start filming with a 4K drone here pretty soon.
That'll be good.
Yeah, I can really get up in there.
Because today, like Mickey,
shots and all that.
Sorry, today Mickey went out somewhere and he was going, if only I could get over the fence. You know, if you had a drone, you could have got over the fence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a personal cameraman.
Yeah. I made a comment in one of my videos about it because, you know, when we see your footage, it's so clear, and then when we see the news, it's all blurry. Well, anything that they do is blurry when you look at it. So I just made a comment about how wonderful your footage was on one of my videos.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah,
Oh.
I've had comments about that. They're like, "What kind of camera do you have?" I'm like, "Well, it's just I do it really slow and take my time and focus."
I can't believe you do all that with a phone. It's good quality, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually.
So what are the BBC using? They're obviously using an old phone.
But yeah, like you're saying with the news, I mean, it's ridiculous sometimes, you know, or the Google Earth, all that. I mean,
But you know why that is, don't you? Because it's all not real. It's all CGI cartoon, virtual reality cartoon things. That's why.
Yes, exactly.
Right, I may as well ask my question at the beginning, because obviously we are going to be talking. Do you have any idea when you think the red brick came?
As far as when they started building?
Because I've got back now to Henry VIII. Because what it is if you look up Hampton Court, it's a palace. It's all red brick. And so that was built in the probably early 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So how far can you go back?
As far as the narratives on when, say, the first brick was laid.
Well, when do you think? Because we'll never know the absolute truth, will we? Roughly.
Yeah. I really don't. I have no idea.
What's your gut feeling? What's your gut tell you?
My gut feeling is all the brick, whenever and wherever it came, you know, when and where it came from, a long time ago. It's just a personal feeling. When was the first brick laid? I have no idea. I mean, it's got to be thousands and thousands of years, I think.
Really? You think that long ago?
Yeah. What's that?
You think that long ago?
Yes. You know, you can't really put a number on it, really. And if you try to go with the narratives at all, you know, the timelines are obviously off. You know, they've just put numbers with certain sites or whatever, or the brick buildings, monasteries, anything. I have no. The only gut feeling I have is about 400 to 500 years ago when this happened, as far as everything being destroyed and melted. But
so basically, just after Henry VIII, then.
Yeah. You know, I think they added 1,000 years to our timeline, and which has kind of been proven through a couple of videos I've seen. But yeah, it's right around the, you know, when they say the Dark Ages and all that.
But do you know what that means? The Dark Ages is a period of time probably that the Roman Empire wasn't here, so they called it the Dark Ages because it's it's just different. It's not got them in it. So that's why, and it's only I don't know. It's not even that long a period, is it? The Dark Ages.
No, it's not.
I can't remember now. I think it's only a few hundred years.
Right. I think it's something. It's just a few hundred. But I mean, it gets so sketchy. You know, past 200 years ago or 250. You know, you don't really know anything past 120 years. So,
we went to London the other day and met me and Mickey, and we went to the park, Hyde Park, and in it you've got these buildings, you've got these arches that are lower, you've got these waterfalls. They're in metal, but you've also got urns, and there's also a waterfall in stone as well. And you're like, God, it's just a bit hard to put the age on it. It's all sorts of ages mixed into one.
Right. yeah, like I said, I'm just thinking everything was from that time period.
I mean, even your
before
pictures, you've got red brick, you've got stones, and then you've got stone bricks, and they're a different shape. And then you've got this, and you've got a bit of that, and a bit of this, and a bit of mending here, and a bit of concrete. It's hard to know when it was all done, isn't it?
Right. And I mean, it's hard to know because it was, to me, it was chemically changed, and the bricks from the electrical heat just popcorned out or blocked up, and it created all this brick, mess, and all intermingled together. So it's so hard to put any kind of timeline on it just looking at it, because some looks new, some looks old, some looks worn, but. Yeah, it's
Do you have any idea when
timeline.
we stopped putting red brick in? Because that would be one date we could keep, is when it ended. Because obviously we don't use red brick today, do we?
No, that's what I've noticed too. When you see all these older world buildings or whatever, or say Civil War furnaces, whatever, they're like 6 brick deep, 7 brick deep. They're so thick.
Yeah, I noticed that. I hadn't noticed that before, and I was doing a castle, and I said, "Look at the size of the walls.
Yeah.
Look how thick they are."
Yeah, just one after another. It's crazy. And then, so apparently, they stopped doing that after the apocalypse or whatever you want to call it. And then after, the Industrial Revolution, whatever, during that time period, they're not building like that anymore. And why? And, why when you have little means back in the 1800s with, say, horses and carts or whatever, and you're supposed to be building all this brick stuff, and then you just stop. So
maybe that was the First and Second World War.
What's that?
Maybe it was all linked in with the first, because they got rid of Tartaria then, and the Queen then everything became the Commonwealth, whereas she owned everything, including Israel. We were looking after Israel. There's loads of places that maybe people don't know. Then we became the Commonwealth, and the First World War. What was it? 1917, 1918. So that's when it stopped, I reckon, because they destroyed the infrastructure then, didn't they?
Exactly. Yeah. The wars go with the destruction of history. Right.
Yeah, it's like a war. You can get rid of the infrastructure. You can do a myriad of things and call it a war.
Exactly.
And then I watched someone the other day, because you're showing a tunnel right now, and the tunnels might have had, some of them are old lava tubes, but they just seem to have so many tunnels. That just boggles your mind. Everywhere's got tunnels, or like trains, or it's crazy. It's like a whole different world. And I kind of put it that there was like a league of gentlemen, and they had all the equipment. They were rich. And then came the poor Victorians, whichever, that could have been from the 16 to the 8. I don't know, but it just looks like that. That's what it looks like, whether it is or not. Just the period of time. It's hard to work it all out, isn't it?
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. I think too. They're like today. You have your rich, your poor, whatever. We can barely afford cars now. They're so high. So back then, possibly like you're saying, it was already kind of a deception and putting people down. And okay, you can afford to do this, and you can't afford to do that. And it's just continued.
But these people that built I can't say the word now. I actually can't say the word. It's gone out of my brain. But they were rich. There's a period of people that when all the statues went up and all these buildings were built, they were rich.
Yeah.
Those ones.
They were doing something different. Yeah.
But you know what? We went in this pub in London. It was an old pub. But when we looked up at the ceiling, you thought, oh, that looks Jacobian, which would be Henry VIII. Okay, he's a Tudor, isn't he, Henry VIII? But you call it like the period's called Jacobian. And you looked up and you thought, they'd been redone, those ceilings. They weren't done yesterday. They were done a while ago. And it looked really old. And you thought, God, could that be Jacobian? It was really flat, no wallpaper. And it had the little it just had patterns that looked like really old. And you're like, oh, everything's getting older and older.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, and the sites I go to, and like you were saying with the tunnels too, and that picture of the tunnel, that whole place that I was at, I want to go under there, but it's all down, below that top of that building, and like you have the abandoned trains. They'll say, oh, it was abandoned in 18, the later 1800s or something, and it looks like to me it was never abandoned. It was just never used after it was destroyed, and then they used some of those tunnels that were still, and you could get through or still had the tracks, and they obviously they fixed some of that too. But yeah, there's a lot of these tunnels, and when I was going to Tennessee,
you can't just slap this stuff up, though, can you? You can't just go, hey, let's just make a tunnel here. You'd have to know what you're doing, and the floors have to be level, and the arches and everything. It's like, well, what are they doing? Was it just making bricks? Is that all we did was make bricks?
I think so. Heck of a brick maker back then, apparently. But yeah, I was in Tennessee, and there's this huge train tunnel. I mean, and some of them are like 25 feet high. Some of them are really short. And when you have the trains going through there now, they'll be double stacked, and then some you can only have single stacks. So why do they bore through these mountains, so called, and make them different sizes? I mean, it doesn't make any sense on that part.
Well, even that they could do it. I'm just going to change the video, Mark. I'm just going to change the video. It's coming to an end now. I know it's only got a little bit to go. Oh no, we've got 4 more minutes. We can put it back on. Hang on. 4 more minutes we've got. Because we've got a few more minutes to go yet. Carry on, Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying how ridiculous the tunnels look through the mountains, or the trains, and how they're just, some of them are 25 feet tall, and some of them are 15 feet tall, just enormous. We can't even, they're saying that dynamite bored through them. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous. I mean, it'd be so hard to do, especially what they tell us for the means we had back then in the 1800s.
I just got this feeling from somewhere like, say, Henry VIII to about the early 1900s, which is where we went to war and everything was destroyed. It's in that period is just I mean, like your ones. Remember the coke ovens? We're looking at those right now. They look older than a lot of the other ones.
Right.
And they didn't have a train on the top of this one, I don't think. So.
Well, the one black and white picture that I found, supposedly of this place, it had the trains on the floor, on the ground level right there.
Right, so it did have trains.
Yeah, that was, so they actually had this old, it's rusted, it's this old steam engine, I think, that's just sitting on the property there. It's, and they got a plaque on it or something. But, yeah, they supposedly had trains going through there, but there's no tracks anywhere. And they were supposed to have it on top, too. The picture showed, the black and white one showed, I think, a train, one little single engine train on top, too. But in the middle of nowhere.
There's so much abandoned, Mark. I'm really upset about it. I think it's much worse for you in America. I know it's everywhere. Every country's got it. But, 3/4 of Detroit is rotting away. You've got towns that are abandoned. There's one in, not that far from Los Angeles. It just goes on, and hospitals and schools.
Yes, they're everywhere.
It's and this person in the video, one of the videos that I copied a bit from, they said, if I didn't know there was a road there, I'd say we were in the apocalypse.
Yes, we're definitely living in the time after the apocalypse. Just a few hundred years, in my mind. But yeah, it's nuts. Like you said, all the abandoned stuff. It's like they took. It's like the apocalypse happened. Whoever entity, world government, however they did it, which was going on before the meltdown. But and then you come back and you take over all this stuff, and then you just use it. Schools, hospitals, insane asylums. It's
really crazy, isn't that? Like say 200 years ago, all right, send them to the asylum. Don't get that today, do we?
No, No.
I think the asylum's where all the people who were
now.
awake went. They were the awake people were sent off to the asylum.
That's what it was. All the awake people were in the asylums.
Quick, get them in there.
Yeah. But yeah, and then they just leave them, and huge brick buildings.
But why didn't we
everywhere.
see them before? Because like I'll tell you, the video's going to end right in just a moment, and we're looking at your melted bricks in the the furnace things. But we're just gonna change the video. 1 second. Here we go. I was going to ask Mark a question, but now I've forgotten what I was talking about. There is a few things. I came across this guy who was talking about trees. I put one of his videos out on my channel, and he sort of said it's the same sort of thing as you. In the rocks, like lots of these tree stumps have fallen down and they've turned into stone now, but they were trees. And he actually said that a lot of trees turn into sandstone, and then when you look up the pyramids, limestone is burnt sandstone, and we know the pyramids have been burnt. So that's really crazy, isn't it? So the pyramids are really wood.
Yeah. Well, the pyramids of them, they are brick. I can share some pictures with you. I have on my computer. The ones in Egypt, they don't show you. You have to find them, but you look closely, and the whole insides are brick, and you'll have those blocks on the outside.
Oh, really? They're brick inside, so everybody just takes pictures on the outside. Oh, amazing! So they may not actually be. They are old, but they may not be as old as you think they are, because they're brick.
Right.
They're in that era then.
Yes, they're 100% brick. I've got tons of pictures of pyramids.
Why don't they say that then?
Because when we're in school, they're like, oh, they're megalithic blocks, and they show you a few of the Gizas.
Because they could have made. Because I've noticed, like when you get to this architecture, you might find brick underneath, and then they put these stone facades up, and it looks like stone blocks. They're just facades on the front, so they're only about an inch thick.
Right. A lot of it, to me, it's stucco on top of the brick. As far as these blocks, it's from the bottom, it expanded and it made that. Because they'll balloon out, they'll turn into like rock, and they'll have tons of pictures of those where the brick it turns into these balloon rocks. It's just the heat and pressure forcing it and chemically changes it. And
when you're saying this stuff, you're kind of assuming that they did it to us, but it may not have been them. It could have just been, because like this guy with the trees, he's saying, look, these rocks they just look like rocks. They're trees that are lying on their side and stacked up. They're called reams.
I've watched a lot of his. I've watched some of his videos.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about then, yeah.
I know exactly. Yeah, when on our last talk I was watching a tree guy years ago. That was the same guy. I couldn't remember his name or whatever. It was Hangman, whatever. One something. Anyway, he lives. He's based his whole thing off of everything is petrified tree. So when I was first looking at this stuff, this has been 3.5 years ago, I think. And then I would look around me, and it wasn't matching up. Like his part of where he was at in Colorado, looking at it, yeah, it looks just like a tree, but. I look around here and it's not. So I knew as soon as that happened that everything's not a tree that's been petrified, huge trees or whatever. And
or buildings, Mark.
Everything's
there could be forts and complexes up on the hills. They're all petrified now into stone, but they were buildings originally, which is what Wide Awake says, because he says it's all rebar up there, rebar.
Yeah. Well, the rebar. See, they had metal and iron going through all these buildings, especially around here. But I've seen it. There's one on the group. There's 2 Facebook groups: Mountains of Melted Brick Buildings and Melted Red Brick University. Anyway, her name's Deborah Simpson. Deborah Watson, I believe, is her YouTube channel, and she's in Australia, and then she's taking these, and it's middle of nowhere, and you can't see any brick, and everything's just melted. You got these arches, and there's a huge iron. It's flat. It's rod going through these the stone, just out of nowhere. So So what I've seen, it looks like it's like we wire our houses, and they run this. They ran the iron and everything through all these buildings, and I'm sure there might be some rebar technically to hold stuff together, but when people see that, they're just like, oh, that's just rebar, and it's most of the time it's not. It's whatever it was, and I think it was conducting energy through the building, just like we wire a house today. So
Mickey feels a bit like that. It feels like flat flints. They were doing things they were resonating the flints. They were turning into like crystals.
Yes.
And they were running to this frequency and resonating and stuff like that. Using the ether probably.
Right. Yeah. Everything was free energy, it looked like.
Yeah, that's what he thinks.
Domes, towers. We see it today, just like those power coils, these little, power station sites, and then on the lines, and all this so-called ancient, like in Asia or really anywhere, and they have these huge buildings that look just like the power, coils we have today that harness energy, from the dams and all that, and so. It looks like everything was set up as a grid and was harnessing energy in some way. So
yeah, that's how clever they were. Because obviously they keep. I think it's obviously because of what the people know. They just keep us well away from anything like that. They just want us watching the fake meta news and looking at our phones at fake news again.
Yeah, it's getting more ridiculous every day.
I know, I find it embarrassing. I just say, leave! No! Go!
Yeah, it's very embarrassing, actually.
Yeah, it really is. I'm just so embarrassed, for the idiots that believe in it are just idiots.
Yeah.
Because, it wasn't much fun for us finding out that things weren't real, but they're not. And there's this whole, what annoys me is there's this whole history. They've completely, I don't know what they've done to it. They've just made sure we can never get back to find out the truth.
Right. We don't live long enough to go from the opposite thing they tell us to try to find the truth, and because it's totally in the opposite direction.
I'm quite amazed with your
They tell us
videos.
we're moving, whatever through endless fake space and at all these millions of miles an hour everywhere. I mean, and we're not moving. I mean, it's just so you have to start from the other direction. So.
Oh, 1 second. Don't forget to get the milk and a little bit of dog food.
Yeah, I can't get. Well, I'll probably get it later when I go
Okay, thanks. Sorry, just my daughter's just come in. Okay, see you in a minute. Yeah, what I really like about your videos is that no matter what, even when you think, is there really? You always say there's brick there, and there always is.
Yes, there's I haven't been anywhere, even when there's no brick. It doesn't look like around, and then I'll just be walking, and there'll be some in the ground, or there'll be just one brick here in this wall, or a couple bricks in that wall. So there's always a brick around, always a lonely brick.
Or a mush brick, because that's what happened when he was. He said, it looks like mush right now, but when we walk up here, it's brick. So it's the same wall, just further along, it was still brick, but the bit where you're first looking, it was all mush.
Right, like the insides look cooked of these buildings. Like you'll have the outside shell of, say, blocks or brick, and then it'll go, say, 2 or 5 deep brick, and it'll just be dirt. Because they didn't build it against dirt. I mean, it's cooked on the inside. Like like on a computer board, motherboard, the inside of a component gets melted first, like a microwave. It's cooking the insides first. Not all the time, but most times that's what it seems like.
So do you think, because you can see on Google Maps that we had a lot of electrical arkings, and it could have even made some of the mountains, because when the arcing goes in, it pushes the land down, and then it pushes the land up where it comes out, and it might not come out in front of you, it could come out miles away, and it depends how big the arcing is. But where the arcing goes in, a lot of trees and farming happens, and where it comes out, they're mining for ores. And they could have been, like we've been heavily mined. I mean, extremely heavily mined. And I don't think they cared. They might have caused some of the Earth past because they didn't care, did they? They were just mining.
Yeah.
And we've been mined to
Yeah,
death, and it finished in the early 1900s.
Yeah. It continue, and I mean, when they're mining today too, I mean, so they'll go from the top down or whatever, and then they'll run into brick. I mean, there's brick buildings. That's what they're mining. There's a few sites that they're
there's
doing
so
today.
much brick for no off. Like, I watched this video, I put it out on the channel. They'd gone to this sort of, well, I suppose it was a sort of star fort shaped thing, but they went in it, and they never even got to the bottom of it. It was tunnel, it went down and down, and in fact, you wondered whether it was some kind of pyramid that you were in.
Right.
In the end.
Yeah.
But there was just stairs after stairs and tunnel after tunnel, and I was really shocked because it had red brick, sort of a grey brick, and then there was stone. It was just really weird everywhere, and you think, wow, the amount of effort it would have taken to mend this.
Oh, yeah. And then when you see that, the brick and the stone, and you're like, well, why didn't they just do it all with brick? A lot easier than hauling these big stones and stuff everywhere. So it makes no sense. And then, as far as
they're trying to tell you that it's not very important. Well, it must have been. It would have taken years to mend this place.
Oh yeah, years and thousands of donkeys and chisels.
So we must have been a lot richer. That's all I can think back then.
Yeah, and I think too. It looks like it was commercialized. Like, okay, all the stamps on the bricks. Okay, now somebody owns the brick, and then they make companies, and then they're stamping them, and then so it looks like you're having to pay for it somehow with whatever means back then they were with coins or who knows what. But at one time it was probably free, and then it got taken over, commercialized, and corporations and. That's what the stamp looks like to me, because it goes around here and over there, everywhere. So, and they're numbered, and some of them, like they're supposed to go in certain places.
Well, that's a bit of an effort, because just say you had 1 million bricks and you had to number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It starts becoming. Oh, I've forgotten the number now. What were we on? 10 or 15? I can't remember. It could be that's quite a big thing to keep putting the number on. You've got to change it for every single one.
Right.
Right. Or you mean it's just one number on the brick?
Well, no, there'll be like 1, 2, 3. There was
one
side I went to. It had on the archway. There was a 1, there was a 3. I think there was a 7. They're all numerically numbered for that archway. It looked like so, and everything was built pretty much the same everywhere. And so maybe it's just it's like a puzzle. It's like when you buy something and they're numbered and you put it together.
That's the thing we've come across, is that some of these really old buildings that were, say, even like San Francisco, the earthquake, when they were sort of like destroyed, you actually realise that inside were these metal things. They were cast, So we think we didn't know how it was built, but then you went, what do you mean they're cast? You'd have to be quite civilised for that. If we look like a bunch of natives with horses and carts, building and manufacturing and making things, you have to be quite civilized.
Right. Yeah, cavemen didn't build all that.
No.
I think they're making us cavemen now. They're trying
we're going backwards, aren't we? They're telling us how far forward we are. I mean, if we were far forward, we weren't using rockets anymore. That's pathetic as well. But but they're just they're back engineering us. We're not moving forward, and when we die, there'll be nothing nice. What will we be remembered for? Oh, how we destroyed everything, and it was plastic.
Right. Everything's just made to throw away now, which everything was made.
When you look at this, you've got these things that even if they're broken, you think, wow, look what they built. You know that they did. And the other thing, Mark, I wondered whether, because we've been heavily mined, we're obviously the children of those people.
Yeah, I mean, we're the survivors of the survivors, like a lot of us say in meltology. But how many generations has it been? I don't think too many. As far as when this happened. So we have survived from whatever, and trying to make this place better. But trying to get the truth out, I guess. But I think it's working a little bit as far as like when we talk to each other, or I go on Spartan Red's stream, or Jennifer's stream, Shapu, all these people, or Joachim, Tartayer and Meltdown. He's got a great documentary. So everybody's trying to come together as one and go in different outlets and get it out there, and just open people's eyes at least. And so, because when you start talking about all this,
you can't really talk to many people, can you?
No, and it's it's suppressed, and people's channels get taken down for just stupid stuff, for no reason, and then you got these dumb
Yeah, do you know what they're doing to me, Mark?
Millions of people that are somebody's just dancing or whatever. It's just like,
do you know what they do to me? What they do is, I might have one song that runs through, just one song, and they'll suddenly say that bit and that bit are copyrighted. So what I have to do is I have to go in and mix and match it, put the same music on, and it's fine. So it can't be copyrighted. So what they do is they lie. They say it's copyrighted, so that your video then can't be monetized and stuff like that. Evil, evil, evil.
Yes. That's why I've actually been trying to record just some music myself, just guitar music to put with mine. So I don't have to worry about
Did they tell you it was copyrighted?
No, I haven't done it yet, but I'm sure they'll say it's somebody else's song.
Oh no!
Like, no, I played it.
So we're almost coming to the end of this video. Let me just check where we are in minutes. What's the next stage then? Because like I sometimes think, well, where do we go? I sent you those pictures of the castle, the Saxon one, and they said there was no Saxon invasion, but in the walls they had bricks. And so we didn't have the Saxon invasion. We all lived peacefully together. So that's what I think happened. We all thought we lived peacefully together. We didn't know when, but we did in these periods. We didn't have great big wars and things. Castles weren't meant for that. Castles were for housing stuff to distribute to the people.
I don't think there was any wars hardly, back like you're saying. Not until after the huge war or whatever. I don't even know if that was a war. But then they continued to make wars to destroy history. So I'm with you on that. I don't think there was hardly any
that's
wars.
how I feel. Wars just mean tick, destroy, destroy, destroy. We'll call it a war.
Yeah, it just means take over and destroy history. That's all that means, and it's for money and just taking that and just stealing stuff from other people. So
what do you think, with all this brick and that, what do you think of the gold side of things? Because things seem to always lead back to gold.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because they
was it your video when you were talking about that man with the river? Was it you? Oh no, it was the wood guy, and he was talking about how really it's rock, which was tree, but in there he was finding gold from the trees.
Yeah, but that's, to me, it's just brick, and it was melted. Like you put the gold on the domes or on anything that we even see today, there'll be gold statues or whatever, and so when all that melted together, and then now when you're mining or stuff, or gold mining, you're just finding bits.
How much
of the gold.
melted then?
How much melted?
If it's just, so basically, so if you went mining, out the way, I want the brick. I want the brick, because that's what it's. If it's, why is there so much below us? What, did we live down there or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think these buildings, they went far down, to the seafloor today, what we call the seafloor, and after that, who knows? And the seafloor goes down miles. And it was, it's flooded too. And it looks like too, it's flooded from the melt, and then if you have this huge building and you have your water levels wherever, and then all of a sudden it comes down, well, then all of a sudden the water level is going to go up and create tsunamis and stuff.
It doesn't really figure for most people, but we had in the 1800s tsunamis and earthquakes, which they don't talk about, do they?
No, no.
Well, we don't even know if that's true, but if when you start finding the alternative history, they'll start, or you go on YouTube, you can find where people, just a random person will suddenly start talking about this stuff that isn't in, the box they give you for information. And that's the history I like looking for, the different history.
Yeah. Yes. Of course,
How
when you
does,
look for the
how does
different
it make you
histories, they
feel
don't match
to
up.
think that so much of it's melted then?
It's going on 3 years of this, and it's every day's different. Just driving around, or going to work, or just being outside, and it comes and goes. It's like I'm glad that I can at least see it and touch it and see that everything's brick, basically. But yeah, it's crazy. It's sad sometimes, but at this point in my life, I just kind of sit back and like, well, this is what it is. And if a person, people, they can look at it and decide for themselves. But I just think this is one of the biggest discoveries as far as what we live on, because if you know that, then it makes everything else a lie.
Do you think in America that a part of this has happened because, I mean, like you supposedly had independence from England, but I can't see that it was us that ran America. It was Mexico and Spain. So do you think that some of this stuff got destroyed because it actually was theirs? They don't want you to know that Mexico and Spain ran everything. We're supposed to have run it, but anyway, they turned it into a corporation the Queen owns. So anyway, we're a corporation as well, so we're just the same as you. We're not a country, we're a corporation. But I think we're finishing now because you're looking at. Let's have a look. Yeah, the video's coming up to an end. I'm just going to pick another video. Hang on a sec. We'll just get to another video because just showing you Mark's video. This is one of your earlier, September 2021.
Which one is this? What's it called?
Hang on. Beerfield Park, Alabama, remnants of melted building. But you're talking right now, so we can get to see who you are. Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Yeah, I just find it quite strange, this whole thing where there's just so much brick everywhere, but we're living in this abandoned place. Honestly, when Trump said "Let's make America great again," he wasn't joking, was he?
No.
I just find it quite alarming. Like I found this dentist, and not that it was really, well, it probably was made of red brick, but it's been left since the 90s, and now the roof is caving in, but all the people's files are still there. It was like they left one day, and everything was left, and then they never came back, but it's all falling to bits, and you think, well, why didn't they empty that out? Why didn't they lease it to someone else?
Right, exactly.
And then if you go to
I
Texas,
never understand that whole just leaving everything like that.
If you go to Texas, you've got little town upon little town upon little town that used to have shops. The shops aren't there anymore, none of them, because they were privately owned.
Right.
I just find it bananas.
Yeah, it's so confusing, and I don't get it. It's like they used the buildings and then just left. But yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't repurpose them or sell them or whatever. They're just gone or just there.
But we weren't noticing any of these things, and people like you and me, we get our cameras out, we film everything, so people get more information. But we were little, we didn't notice all these things. I bet you there's places that you've been or whatever, and you think, oh, I wish I would have been more awake then.
Yes, I mean, I've taken little field trips or whatever in high school or middle school, whatever. We went to like forts and stuff, and yeah, I just back then you don't care, because I didn't even believe in the history anyway. Back then I just didn't care, because I couldn't get close to it, and I didn't, when you're a teenager, it's like whatever.
I know, but now I bet you, do you want to go to a history? No, we don't really want to go to their history class, but I'd love to do it now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like you just like the real history. Give it to me. Give it to me.
Yeah, I tell my wife and kids all the time, I was like, man, I'd love to go into a geology class right now and start asking questions.
Yeah, you're a mini scientist now, aren't you?
Yeah, meltologist.
Yeah, there you
So I
go.
call myself.
He's a meltologist. What does your wife think about all this?
She actually shows me stuff sometimes. Usually I've already seen it and it makes her mad, but no, it doesn't make her mad. But yeah, she's right there with me now. Of course,
Oh, I'm
I
so
put a
pleased
lot
for
more
you.
time
It's
into it.
good
But
when your partner's with you.
one of my sons, he had to go to actually to Tennessee today and last week. Anyway, he calls me. He's like, he's going through the mountains or whatever, and he's like, man, Dad, I just want to say, I saw some brick, in these between all these rocks and stuff. I said, I know you showed me pictures and stuff, but he's never really went out there and looked. And it changes you when you can see it, and you can't unsee it. But yeah, those are proud moments, for when you're, because
I think that's so frustrating because it's like we've got no infrastructure to say that where they made these bricks.
No, I know.
There's millions and millions and trillions of them.
The brick machine or whatever, but it's probably covered up and destroyed. However, they were making these bricks back in the day, but now we just recycle it.
Do you think that we were just because we could have got these electrical arkings, and then we lived underground? We had to because of what was happening above ground.
Yeah, I mean, people did have to survive.
I mean, look how know how low the clouds are, don't you? They're only about 400 feet up. If those things come down and start having thunderstorms and that, we're doomed, aren't we?
Yeah, I think about that too when I was in Tennessee too, a couple thousand feet up, and the clouds, they just roll right by you or whatever. And, I'm thinking to myself, these were high buildings. Are we supposed to be this high up? I don't know, but
well, they're making the clouds, aren't they?
Yeah.
And really, the clouds are higher than that, the other clouds, but the ones that they're making, it's obviously to cut out those orbs that keep going in and out of the sun. But I don't know what it's about. I can't even, even when we're looking at the brick stuff, you think, like we're looking at now, there's those bricks, then there's redder bricks, everything's mended.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? Like, it's not, when you're looking at it, it's like, oh, well, that was there, and then they've mended it, and then they've mended it again, and they're all different eras in there, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Like mended it, what do you mean by mended? Like,
well, like, just there, for instance, you've got this brick, and then at the bottom there was a group of much redder bricks. I wonder if it comes back now, because we've moved on now.
Oh, yeah.
And so they obviously mended it at some point, and then mended that. So well, I don't get that. Everything's, and there's different eras in it. Even with the Tartarian buildings, you've got all these buildings, and then, like, for instance, in Brighton, there's the Brighton Palace, but it looks like a mosque, but it's a palace. Then you've got, so that's an era. So why were they building a mosque and pretending it was a palace?
Right.
And then the Tartarian buildings, there's different styles in them.
Yeah, that's something I was noticed just recently, saying, you have these awesome, huge, whatever, brick buildings, the domes and everything, and you don't really see any, say, wood or iron, per se, in them. They're just all just magnificent.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And then, you'll have different ones with, it looks like they were almost scaled down, say, towards before the event happened, and that's, that was your lower tier people maybe living what was made of wood and brick and some, and some other stuff. It looked cheaper, and maybe they were just trying to survive, or they were just everything was money based, or whatever money was. It wasn't as.
Well, do I worked out, Mark, when I was in London and we were seeing the fountains and everything and the building. We noticed the arches were coming out of the ground, but we could only see the tops of the arches. And then when you went across the road, you saw that they built down there, and it's like 10 feet down there to the bottom floor. You've got like a flight of stairs. However height in your house, when you have stairs, that's the next level down. But the road was in the middle, so the other side of the road was low, and the houses were built down there. So they obviously built the roads up. That wasn't mud flood. They've built the roads up like that.
Yeah, built them right, and they were all level. And when you're seeing these steep roads that they say they built or whatever, it's just from the event, and it's just it melted, and that's what you got left. But yeah, they didn't build it like that, like they say. It was just all these buildings just kept going down and down and down, and just got covered. And like to me, the mud flood thing, you can have mud floods now, or even right after the event, because it mixed with water. But like mud, it doesn't melt brick. Like, so, all this is just melted brick, and then now you mix it with water and you get mud. But yeah, there was a huge flood and all that, and then so it got covered with, after it solidified and hardened, and then it's got sand and dirt, and then you mix the water with it, and then that's what we call mud. But that's just for me, when people say that, there was a catastrophe, and then, there was multiple resets with all these mud floods, but it's just brick.
I'm glad with people like you, because, now I say to Americans, no, you've got more history than we do. You don't have a king and a queen. Okay, and there's maybe, but you have castles. You have more history than we do. It's all just been covered up.
Yeah, and what's funny is, like, there's certain places in America, that we're supposed to be, the youngest country or whatever, and then but I'm finding it's the same stuff as in Europe or in Australia or anywhere.
That's what I'm saying. It's like worldwide. Like if you go to India and China, you can find Tartarian buildings. Like we've got here, like you've got. It's like, I mean, even when I was in Paddington the other day, we were standing really close to this long, thin building. You know how many of those that there were in New York? They were in London. They were in New York.
Yeah. And they supposedly.
Oh yeah, where did the cowboys and Indians come in then? When were they then?
Yeah, that's just made up as far as that story, but. Yeah, I mean, there was obviously Indians and stuff, but yeah, that whole cowboy and Indian thing is just another narrative they threw on there, and they probably exterminated a lot of Indians, that's the people that were living here.
They've got away with it a bit, because a lot of these buildings are brick, and you can put brick. We've got bricks today, so people just don't think that it's that old.
Right, and then...
But I wasn't sure if we'd been here that long, to be honest, Mark.
You don't think we've been here that
long? I wondered whether there was
set?
another civilization, and they were sort of, with the rains in the 1800s, they put children in Australia, they put children in other countries. That looks like they're trying to populate the place we live in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely was a totally different world before this happened, and it looks, like you said, it looks like they're repopulating it and putting it the way they want it, and then brainwashing everybody to think they're free.
Yeah, that's right, when we're not.
No, they're not at all. Far from it. But yeah, I was going to say, like you were saying, the newer looking bricks, and they'll be with, it looks like older bricks. It's just to me, it looks just more heat damage. But you'll have that perfect looking brick on a building that's old too, or the whole building could look kind of nice. It's just slightly heat damaged. It didn't really get touched as far as the event. And because it cooks from when you cook it electrically, the intense heat of a brick or whatever, it cooks the color out, changes the color, turns it to crystal, whatever, just depending on the heat and the pressure.
Don't you think we live in a really weird place if this place can petrify everything?
Yeah. That's the thing, we don't know. I mean, they can't even tell us where water comes from, really, or it just it comes down from the earth.
Yeah, Paul Cook, he says he thinks that nothing is natural, and the mountains, the water, not all, well, some mountains join other mountains, but you've got mountains where the water goes up to the top and then comes down as a waterfall.
Yeah, that's just the irrigation going through the buildings and then coming out, and now it's all destroyed, and it just keeps flowing down. But yeah, all this, they come out of the mountains or whatever, all the water and the waterfalls, and they go down, and then they eventually reach the ocean, whatever, huge lakes, and so where does it go from there? It's obviously recycling to me somehow. It goes down, then it comes back up.
Do you find that weird that we're just building on top of other buildings and other things, and It's like, why are we building on top of everything? Why is there, some people find other buildings underneath their building. Like, what the hell is this?
Exactly. Yeah, I see videos all the time when people are digging or something in their yard, and they're like, why are there all these bricks down here? And then, there'll be a whole nother 2-3 levels they discover under their house, and it's just leftover building from that time. And but the narratives are so confusing, and then you call somebody, okay, hey, what's this? They just read some crap out of a book. Oh, this is from 1800s, whatever, 17, and it was covered and whatever. Along with the fossil thing, it's just milk on top of life to me. They say those are millions of years old. It's the same time period to me as far as when it happened. But before that, who knows?
Sad, isn't it, to give us a history that's not real and not tell us the truth?
Yeah. It's
why couldn't they say, we're the baddies, we won 200 years ago, and this is the result of us winning? Because that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. No, we didn't win. Because, it was taken over, obviously, and made to what it is today. That's another thing, was it sabotage or not? It looks like it, but to me, but how and happened is just, we can't get to it, because you got to go down. You got to keep going down, and then down below sea level, and it's just covered up, and we're not able to do it. As far as just me and you or something, even.
No, we need I'm not saying NASA for that reason, but we need somebody as big as them to help. Like an organisation big to help us now and tell the truth, but it's not going to happen, is it?
No, it's not. We'll never fully know the truth. But when you destroy a huge lie like what we live on, that's a start, and then you can't. It just a lie turns out a lie. It just keeps on going to where it makes no sense when you're asking questions like, okay, well this rock, it's half brick and half rock, and geologists they won't even come close to even try to answer your question. One day I'm gonna try to get one and
you can't
have
just
an interview.
slap a building up on it. It has to be pretty flat for them to do it. And some of them are built on rocks. I don't even know how they do that. Like right up high, there's a great big building in stone, and you're like, how the hell did they do that?
Right? Yeah, they didn't do that. It makes no sense. You build on level. Like today, you level it out, and then you start building. You don't build on the side of a mountain. I mean, that's just, it's ridiculous. You can't do it.
Well, we can't do it. So that's what I'm saying. We back engineered, because whoever these people were, they were a lot cleverer than us.
Yeah. Well,
and like a lot of these buildings, they don't have foundations like we do today, so they're still here, and they could be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Yeah, the foundation just keeps going down, and all the buildings that have been damaged, they're way better than the buildings we build today. I mean, they're there forever unless they.
Do you think that they put, if you put seawater in concrete or in a mixture and you're putting the bricks up, that's going to last longer? So they must have been doing things like that. Must be seawater.
And the salt water thing's weird to me too. I don't know if it's always been salt water or not. As far as the ocean, it's just the more you look into this stuff, it's just you just ask more questions, and of course they can't answer them. So.
Well, they don't want to, do they?
No.
So what's happening for you now then? So you've been away for Christmas and New Year, and what are you going to be doing for the next few months? Just finding more places to film?
Yeah, it's been a lull time for me just because of the holidays and everything, and just life has come up, so I hadn't really been able to get out there. But like I said, I'm gonna get this drone, and what my plan is, I'm gonna go back. I know I'm gonna go back to that coke oven site with that drone because it's so huge, and an aerial shot would be awesome. And I'm gonna go back to a couple places that I've been to with the drone, and then there's two more huge sites. There's another coke oven site that's got they said there was a huge bridge that went across this river. It's right beside these coke ovens, but it's destroyed. There's only pieces of it. Looks like concrete, I've only seen a couple little clips of video of somebody that was there, but and it would have like crystallized rocks in the concrete looking bridge, huge suspension bridge it's only, like I said, it's only have a few on one side, and then the other side of the river there's a few more, but I'm gonna go there. That'll be a big one because it's something else, but yeah, I'm just gonna get in this wet. The weather would cooperate. Like, it's been terrible weather here, cold, rainy, obviously snowing a little bit, so
Well, do you know what I'm finding?
hopefully,
In the evening, it gets warmer. It gets warmer at night time when we don't have the sun. It might be 0 in the day, and now it says 4 degrees. I find that really weird. We haven't even really had a winter. We haven't.
yeah, well, we're just starting to get ours about 2-3 weeks ago. But yeah, it's the winter around here too. It's so weird. So it's warmer at night.
Well, that's what the computer's telling me when I look at the temperature. It just comes up at the bottom of my computer. It tells me. And the other thing I've noticed is that when you're walking around, there isn't really much you're walking around on that isn't really dry and crisp. Everything's, when you're walking, everything goes crunch, crunch. You're not really walking on much grass. It's all dead and crunchy and...
Yeah.
And I actually thought to myself, when you were showing one of the graveyards, and I was thinking, well, maybe, because you said it's burnt, I was thinking, well, maybe they did burn it, but they couldn't burn all the graveyards, could they? Maybe they burnt them.
No. And like when you're saying that,
or maybe there were fires.
Like
Fires, just random fires. You get random fires. Maybe some of these have been in these fires, and then years later you're coming across them. I don't know, but they couldn't burn them all.
Yeah.
Right, you know what I said about grass, and there isn't any. We're now looking at a piece of grass. But when you go out, there's nothing much you're walking on. It's grass. It's all crisp and broken, and when you hear you walking, you're walking on crunchy and dry.
Yeah.
Everything's dry.
Yeah, so like in the graveyard or anywhere at these old sites, and there'll be places like you're saying, I'm walking, and all of a sudden it's crunching, and it'll be like this thin layer. It looks like say stucco or concrete, but it's so thin, and you're just, like you said, you're crunching, and then some places will have a little bit of grass on top of it, and you look down, you're like what is this? And I'll dig down a little bit, and it's just pieces of it looks like stucco or whatever, and then brick, but just desolate, really.
It's amazing how they've moved us, haven't they? Because there's obviously all these civilizations and things happening over there, and now you live, say, 200 miles over there now. Weird, isn't it? But you've got a big country you can do that.
Yeah. You got a big country, what?
You've got a big country that you can do that. You're thousands of miles big.
Oh yeah, right.
England isn't thousands of miles big. You could
Right.
lose a house or a building here. Like I found one. I was really shocked. It's called Tottenham House, and it's in Savernake Forest. And even though it's being done up at the moment, when you see the pictures before, you look at it and you think, God, the governments could have gone there. It was that grand. And you think, well, I never knew. So you just keep finding these things because we just don't know they're there.
Exactly. It's crazy. And I'm just driving around, through the woods or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll look over and there's this old-looking stone brick house or something, just in the middle of the woods or whatever. I mean, there's buildings everywhere, and like the ones you're saying, huge ones that we just don't know about. And even some of the ones I found, there's nothing on them. There's no history on it or anything. These huge places in the middle of nowhere, but everything's just so covered up as far as
this place here,
us.
the one in Alabama, is in Bearfield Park, Alabama. What was that doing? Do you think that was making bricks? The place we're looking at right now.
I don't know. It was obviously, to me, it was just a piece of a building left over. I don't know what those functions were. Just like the Cocos.
So that could be another castle there.
Like
that could be like a castle you're really looking at then.
No, it could be just the top of it. You don't know because it's just the top of a building.
And do you know, I've realised that gatehouses, that's the top, but there are rooms underneath. But of course, they've told us castles. Castles were to do with fighting, but they weren't. They were storerooms.
Yeah.
They were storing stuff and distributing it to the people. So it's all just it's just ridiculous.
It is. It's so ridiculous.
You start
I
running
don't
out of
know.
words of how to explain things.
Yeah, really. I am too. I don't know. I don't know. It's so confusing too. You know, and people going to school and stuff, and they're just being taught just nonsense, and then some of them that are really into whatever they're into through college, whatever, less, you know, history, whatever, geology, and they, you know, if you question them, they just think you're stupid. Like,
And the really
you're
sad
just
thing is
reading
that
something from a
you know
book.
you've got this kind of history. You know, like we've got Jordan. There's that great big building built in the stone. You've got, and they direct us to history like the pyramids and things like that. When actually, you've got all this other history around you, and you don't realise. And you're thinking, oh, the pyramids, oh, this, but it's all around you, everywhere.
Everyone. I mean, there's pyramids around me, and I didn't even know they were there. Just little ones. But then they put little plaques on them or whatever.
Well, they'll say they're burial mounds or something, but there are a lot of
Right.
mounds.
Yeah, we have
We have
just
them in
a couple
classes
hours from
here.
here. They're called Indian mounds. I hadn't been to it yet. It's just a huge mound. Looks like a mini, you know, say volcano. It hadn't turned into a volcano, but the top's flat, and then they throw a narrative like the Indians were, or you know, back like a long time ago. Oh, this is from 15 whatever when the Indians, you know, built underground, and they're just putting a stupid story with it.
That's
all they're doing.
amazing, because that means that the Indians had to be a far more civilised then.
Yeah, and we have they're actually called Moundville is what it's called, Alabama, and I think there's 2 big mounds, and yeah, you're like, okay, so they're digging underground. I thought they lived in teepees, but whatever, and they dig all underground and live underground. Why? I mean, why would you do that? You know how hard that would be. So why don't you just build on top? So it's just leftover building.
It's like we're on a film set.
Yeah. We are. World is a stage. That's
It
a true
damn well
statement.
is, except there are real people like you and me and other people in it, and I'm just gobsmacked. I just don't like it. Gives me an irky feeling because it's like, you know, we're never going to know the truth really, but we keep digging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun, for me at least, dig and then to show evidence or to show family or whatever.
Yeah, people like
look
you
at this.
are the historians and the newsmakers, you know, like, even though I find it weird that YouTube supports channels who break into buildings and film them. They support them and they pay them, and I say one thing about something and I'm restricted, but I'm glad that they do it because they're the real news readers. They're the ones telling the real truth because they're showing us all these abandoned places.
Yeah. I watch some of those too. It's it's crazy how you say one word and they'll take off your video and then they're breaking into places. Yeah, and then
they don't like because we say something a bit different, don't we? Really, and we're trying to show people the truth as best as we can.
Oh, I do want to tell you, just about a week ago, so there's this one true castle in Birmingham, Alabama. It's the city in Alabama, big city. So there's about 1 million people. No, a couple million people. Anyway, so it's supposedly a guy came over from Europe in 1927 and built this castle. And I never went to it. It's been closed down for a while. For decades, but they actually redid the inside, and they said that it was apartments back in the 1920s and 30s. Well, they a week ago they destroyed it, and they are building this glass biotech center for you know what.
But you know what? You're not allowed to do those things. Those buildings are old, and when they're old, you can't just knock them down. You can't. You can't do that here.
They were taking the tops off of the castle parts, on each of the tower parts, and then they came in there and with a big ball, and they wouldn't let anybody. I read about it. They wouldn't let anybody take any of the rock and the stones that it was supposedly made out of. So I don't know where they did with it, but
I learned last week that Crystal Palace, people weren't sure what that was. A great big glass building in London that's gone, and it caught fire, like Dragon glass catch fire. But underneath there was a pneumatic train. A pneumatic train, for goodness sake! Like,
Yes.
we just want the truth.
Yeah, I think they had those even after the catastrophe that went to Europe and over here, and they shut them down. And they talk about, we're Elon Musk or whatever, we're building a underground from California to New York. It's probably already there, and they're just they'll be able to later on charge people or rich people. I mean, somebody like me probably couldn't afford it, but to go back and forth. But yeah, the traveling back then was, I mean, everybody did it, and probably for nothing, hardly. Everything was connected, this whole place. So it looked like, you see all these bridges and stuff, and there'll be a bridge from a mountain to a mountain or whatever, and then to nowhere, because just everything was connected. And traveling in the airships.
Do you think there used to be a lot more people here? I think that they keep telling us how overpopulated we are, but with what all this is, there must have been a lot more people here. And if they talk about the wars, there's always thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, I think there were just trillions of people before. That's what it looks like. I mean, all these buildings, they all weren't like housing. Some of them were, obviously looks like components to the grid, but yeah, there were so many beings and people here before, I think. And then, they're telling us the opposite. Oh, we're so overpopulated. When you drive for miles and there's just nothing. Like somebody can live here, here, here. So they're just grouped everybody in these cities for work, and then
they make sure they're overcrowded. They make sure they're overcrowded, and so that the people think, I can't get accommodation. There's not enough accommodation and all that. When actually they're just funneling you from the countryside to the towns, aren't they?
Yeah, they just funnel everybody to one spot, and it's easier when you get all the people together to brainwash them. Because if you get 9 people out of 10 that think one way, and then you got the oddball. Well, the oddballs, he might just go with them just because he didn't want to be called stupid or whatever. So yeah, it's genius. If everybody's spread out and doesn't watch TV, then this would be a whole different world right there. But
yeah, we'd be talking to each other and discussing things, wouldn't we?
Exactly. Not just some guy with a microphone telling you what to do. You actually live life and just talk to people and see what's around you.
But I bet you find, don't you, that now you're looking into all this. Okay, you put it out on your channel. You've got your wife to talk to, but you can't really talk to any of your friends. They think you're crazy, and I think once you start, there's so much to say. Probably we do sound crazy, but it's not our fault. We've been lied to, and we don't like the lies.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not very often. I went to Tennessee with a couple of them, but I've calmed down about it, and I just don't. If they bring it up, I'll talk about it, and which one of them has a few times. And I was talking to him, it was funny, he's like, oh man, you make a good argument. But then he'll just, he won't ever bring it up again. And I'm not going to push it. You got to know, you got to want to know. And, people just don't want to leave their reality as far as anything, because it starts with your family. They're like, oh, well, there's that crazy guy. But of course, that crazy guy makes a lot of sense. But if they want to listen, it just depends on if they want to listen.
It's quite amazing, this place here. I just think that was probably some kind of castle or something.
Yeah, everything's a castle, it seems like, or a piece of one, what they call castles. Because there's a ton of them towers. It's just one tower, and they'll say it's an old water tower. The top of it looks exactly like a castle. Like, why are you building a water tower and it's brick that looks like a castle? So, and they just say, oh, well, they got it, from the Europeans, that style or whatever. And it's just total crap.
It is. I think this video's finishing again. Let's have a look at how far we've got to go on here. Yeah, we've just got a minute or so. So we'll do one more video then, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, got this video on. I think I might have actually made a video out of this one, In the Middle of Nowhere Graveyard Lies. But maybe there was fires here, and that's what burnt this one.
I don't know. Like around it too, they've been. There's hardly any trees growing around, but they did probably forest some of it. But yeah, this was such a weird place, and it says it was established in 1800. At the bottom of this road, this plaque, and there's literally nothing for mine. There's one house you can see from. Yeah, there was one way in the distance I point out at some point in the video, but that was it. There's nothing for about at least 10, 15 miles in every direction. And then you've got this graveyard, supposed graveyard.
I don't think that. Do you think they would have built it like, right, we're going to bury your sister, whatever, person. We're going to go 10 miles out of town.
Yeah. And actually, it was I looked it up. I think a Baptist church owns this graveyard or this spot. But yeah, why would you? I don't even know where the church is at. I didn't look how far that. I didn't see one. But why would you just come all the way over there to bury somebody? Which obviously they have now. There's people buried there, but all the old stuff, I think that's just left over.
And sometimes you're saying, even though there's looks like gravestones in them, some of these are buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think these are most of the, what you're seeing, the old stuff is just tops of the buildings, and I'm watching it too right now. And when you have the red and the yellow brick, and then you have the on the corners, you'll have this the white not ivory, marble or whatever. It looks like a component, like just the top of it, and it got fried. Because there's so many of them on these old graveyards with the yellow brick and the red, and then of course then you'll have rock. But yeah, it looks like components to me.
What's the yellow
I've seen
brick,
a lot
then?
of melted ones.
Do you think the yellow brick's even older, or do you think that's it just was a yellow brick?
No, I think that's they got cooked out.
Oh, so they were red then?
Yes, I think they were all red to begin with, and then they just got cooked. They can turn darker or lighter, but most of the time it looks like that they'll go white. But that's how they make the bricks today. As far as with the color, it's just different heat. It starts at red, and then it goes from lighter colors. The more heat you put to the brick, and then until it melts. I think it's 2,400 degrees or so.
Oh, I'd love to know what happened to us for all this.
Yeah, I would say.
But there is this bit, when that guy, the tree guy, when he just stops his car and because of where he is, and he looks over and he says, "See all those rocks? That looks like that was a complex up there." And you could actually see remnants of statues and things, and you could actually see the fort in the hill. So he's probably right, but it's all petrified into stone.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see, like if you look on sides of hills, mountains, whatever, you can see archways that are just like, we call it ghosting, and you'll have stairs or ghostings of archways or little apertures like windows or doors, and mountains don't have windows and doors and stairs. Buildings do. So yeah, they're all buildings. And in this graveyard in the background, you see all those foothills.
Well, do you know one reason I did look up things? What it is when people die and they get buried, they know that for about 60 years people will be coming to it. And of course, they die.
Yeah.
So then that's why these there's nobody comes to these anymore, because all the other people now who were visiting have died. Yeah, you're squidging a brick now. It's a squidgy brick.
Yeah, then they just stop burying people there because, then their history may have been told, okay, your great-great-grandfather is buried here or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just stopped burying people there because everybody's dead during this time. Say 150 years ago or 100 years ago, whatever.
I don't know why they bothered to say that it's all sort of started in the 1700s for America when it's not true. You just run by somebody else then.
You know, another interesting thing I'm looking at now, that metal grave that's puffed up. It's like iron.
I don't think we've got that far at the moment. We're looking. You just pulled a brick out and it's got holes in it.
Okay, let me back up. Let me see.
You just pulled one out and it's all got holes in it, and you're just walking around now. But some of the gravestones in here look quite grand, but it also looks like it's been left for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, and like that brick I was pulling out too, I pulled out one, you know, in the middle of it, it was just clay, red clay, which is brick. But
mushy,
in the middle of that brick was clay. It should be brick. It's not going to deteriorate like that in the middle of it. So it looks like it got cooked from the inside, like most stuff looks like.
I wonder what that means, because you're so sure of that, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm 100% positive in my eyes. I haven't seen anything different yet, as far as, you know, the melting and it's just, you know, you look at the insides of all these, you know, other places that are just turned to mush, and then, you know, you find stuff like that where the brick is hard on the outside and then the inside is just clay, which is the most abundant element on Earth, because it's all brick.
Oh, so what you're saying is clay is melted brick?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Clay, sand, dirt, all that is melted brick, or building, which is mostly brick.
They
you know,
are
besides,
evil,
like you said, like
aren't
the
they?
gold and the
They're
copper
evil.
and all that.
They're evil people.
Yeah.
We're just looking at the round thing in the ground. I mean, that's a bit strange, isn't it? Because you show us a bit later on the video that it goes. You found another one or something, and it goes down a few inches. Like, what's that doing there?
Yeah, so that was in the ground. I didn't see the other one yet, which was above the ground. It was just sitting there. So it's like, I don't know, 6 inches thick or deep, and it's just like it's marble. So why was that other one by itself in the ground? You know, there's no flooding up on that top of that hill or anything. It's not like over the years going to cover it. So who knows?
You just got to the metal one now. I mean, those are crazy, aren't they? The metal ones.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
they're Roman.
that metal one
they're
in
Roman.
another graveyard. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, they're Roman.
They're Roman?
Well, what it is what I've sort of put together is that Hitler was the Third Reich, but he was also the Third Holy Roman Empire. So we've had 3 lots of them, and then we've had the Dark Ages when we didn't have them. But Henry VIII was a emperor, Elizabeth I was a Roman emperor, our Queen's a Roman emperor, but I think she's the top for some reason, because she owns everything. But it's all crazy. They're all Roman emperors. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Obviously, there's one at the top, because there's going to be loads of emperors, and then there's like a top one.
Yeah, and so that iron grave you just saw whatever a while ago. So another graveyard that had 2 of them side by side, and it's on. I have a picture of it on that first video you probably played with just the pictures. And one is melted down. Looks like in the top of it's like stone, concrete. And it's the same exact one as you just saw in this video. So there's a lot of every graveyard I go to. It seems like I find one, but that other one was the only one I found 2 side by side. It's exact same.
And also,
even
if you, like you're saying, these structures here, they've got graves in them, that they were buildings. You know, even say they were graves, they've still got to make them. You couldn't just. It would take a few weeks. You know, if you did it, it would take a few weeks to make it.
Right. Yeah, you would never stack stones like this, and then you have those huge stone, like I guess we would say grave, but the big slabs that are on top of these rocks. So they look so heat damaged. It looks like to me it was all brick, and it turns to these rocks.
We're looking at all these rocks now, which could have been a building originally, but there's all these rocks, bricks there, or whatever you want to call them, rock bricks.
Yeah.
But you're looking at one now, it's shaped, so it's obviously was a building there, and now it just looks like a mound of block brick, like rocks.
Yeah. no, I don't think anybody stacked that there. That's just left over.
Because what it is, you know, like say the ones you're showing now, if all churches were made like that, that's probably how they would have been made, because we didn't have the infrastructure. But when we look at a lot of this Tartarian stuff, they were obviously really civilized.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's another thing. There's such all these, you know, magnificent buildings and stuff, and they were, you know, but they were stacking rocks. I mean, they weren't doing that. They were civilized. They were building with brick. You know, nobody stacked rocks like this, especially these graveyards and stuff. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like going back and forth. Okay, you were a caveman, then you were not a caveman, and then now you kind of have been between a caveman. You know, just the way you know they're building through these hundreds of years, supposedly how they built. But
like here, you've got like some rocks, and then they've got the stones on the top. You know, like when it's saying who the person is, they're great slabs, and they're put on top of these like burial things. And if you look at it, I think, well, is that another era again? Or is it some people could really? I mean, if they had to afford it, because they've got a headstone, so they had to afford it. So why is that put over these bricks?
Right, and the inscriptions are confusing too, because it went through the event, and it's so weird. And again, like you said, you would just never do that. As far as burying somebody like that, it makes no sense. There's a couple of gravestones coming up that look really weird. They have little U's on the side of them, not U's, but the little. You'll see in a minute. They look totally heat damaged. And melted, because you can't read any of the descriptions anymore. But like, to me, when you see in these rocks just sticking out, and they'll say they're headstones, but that's just left over. I mean, somebody could put, you know, a little one somewhere, but a lot of them go down the ground at least a little ways. But I think it's just left over.
It's awful, really. But what you needed to do was, as you're a meltologist, was to say, right, I want this graveyard. I want to dig the whole thing up and see what's down there.
Oh, yeah, I would, if I could. This place, man, I could probably do that, but I'm not going to. I know. Just dig where the rocks are. You know, I mean, I just don't think anybody's buried there.
Really? You think this place is empty then, and it's just a fake graveyard?
Oh, no. Just the old stuff. I don't think anybody. Now, these plots where you see the brick around it, those are old, but I do think, you know, you'll see a new headstone in it. They'll put somebody in it, bury somebody. But like the old just rocks sticking up, or old headstones that look half melted, or where I don't think anybody is buried there. Just the newer looking headstones.
The bigger ones.
The
bigger ones.
It's like repurposed like anywhere else. Like, okay, you know, this is a castle. Okay, well, this is a graveyard. And then they just start burying people there. I don't know what happened before.
If we were poor, though, Mark, we wouldn't be able to do all that. We'd have to make do with what we got somehow.
Right. And, and like it's so, if we were so, these huge marble, you know, headstones, or even, you know, in it supposedly, whatever they're called. But who's getting all this money and go to the middle of nowhere and putting these extravagant, you know, headstones and stuff? It just makes no sense. It's as much as it costs today. If you want to bury somebody too, it's too much work for the little means they had. You know, no cars, no nothing like that. You just got a horse, and then you're building these extravagant burial.
Well, it had to have been different, didn't it? Maybe we said, we're getting on the Zeppelin, or the hot air balloon, we're going over in that. I don't know, because they've lied so badly.
There used to be tons of airships and balloons, and recently Shapu and Jennifer on their stream, they streamed together, they were showing these boats that they're called prison boats, supposedly back in, you know, early 1800s or something. They look like arks, like the interpretation of Noah's Ark. There's tons of them back in the day, and they call them prison ships, but it looks like maybe they were repopulating.
And what about all the ships that were made out of concrete? I find that really bizarre. You might not have realised that you were travelling on a concrete ship.
And these huge ships, they didn't have any sails. It looked like they had tech, like they had, like poles going up and wires going down, but there's no sails. So how are they getting around? They're obviously getting around somehow. It's confusing looking at them, and it's weird that they all look like arcs, and they're almost as big as them, and there's just tons of them.
Yes. What is it all? I want to know. I want to know more.
There probably have been something like the orphan trains. They're just taking people
around. We can't prove any of that. We don't even know if any of that's real. It's their history, but they change it all the time. Like they're just changing history all the time. So we might have found it, but our children's children won't find this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was confusing enough for us, but it'd be even worse for them then.
Yeah, I feel sorry for even my kids sometimes, which two of them are 20, but it's like, man, when you get my age, your whole history is going to be something totally different, even in 10, 20 years. So, I don't know.
Yeah, film it when you see it, because it might not be there later on.
Yeah, that's why boots on the ground are so important for everybody, just to film around them. You don't have to go far. Just anything that looks old or building or in the middle of nowhere somewhere, take pictures and record
That's
it.
What Mickey did today where he lived. He took a picture of this building that they said was King Henry VIII's greenhouse, and then there was a great big wall. So I'm going to put that will have played at the beginning of this video. So we've now got, if it's Henry VIII, then that's 15 something. So, we just got to try and, hopefully there's other buildings and they're just older, because obviously we want to know the dates and times of things. Well, that's the other thing as well. When they were doing like these complexes in the towns and building all these buildings with gardens, they seem to knock down all the trees. All the trees have gone. It might be paintings, but they take down all the trees.
Yeah.
I find that really weird.
Yeah, I don't get that. And it looked like to me before this happened, it was perfect. And the grass or the trees, it didn't like just take over stuff, right? Like it does now. It just got loose and it's just wild now. And that's just what it looks like to me. Everything was perfect. Water running through all the buildings, and then I don't know what the trees and grass looked like back then because everything was fried, but it looks like everything was perfect and contained, and it's totally now we're living, on post-apocalypse. So
I suppose in America though, you can always go to another piece of land, can't you? Because you're so big.
Yeah.
We're just going to go a mile up the road because, we're going to pretend that this place doesn't exist. Well, we won't tell them.
Yeah.
It's inquisitive minds, like yours, and you go and look at it and you just know. You just know that something else has happened and they're lying.
Mm-hmm.
It's awful.
Just start in the opposite direction and you'll get closer.
Yeah. We're kind of coming to the end of this video. We've been talking now for an hour and a half. It's gone really quickly. I really like our chats and everything. So you're just going to go around and film more stuff?
Yeah, that's we'll probably get my drone tomorrow and go from there. I'm gonna start filming some more stuff, and it might be a couple weeks or so before I put something on there, but might put a little snippet of something. But yeah, then I'm gonna get going with that, and once I know how to finagle that drone good, you'll start seeing a lot more videos.
This churchyard you're looking in, you've got ones built up, and then you've got these things in the ground where they look like they've put concrete over the top. Obviously, maybe they didn't want the grass to grow there, but there's just loads of different eras in this churchyard. It's bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's all, if you're going by the narrative and time periods, it's all kind of, in all these old graveyards, you could say, this is from whatever, 1800s, but that one's the first one I've seen that said it's established 1800. If you Google when graves started, and I don't know if that was just in America or anyway, it says around 1830s, I think, but so that was a little off.
a lot of these buildings were pagan buildings, and Christianity only came in the 1800s. And that's why suddenly they got buried in the graveyards of the churches, because they were turned into churches, but they weren't before.
Yeah, I don't think any of them were churches. The cathedrals and all what they say they weren't churches. They were used for something else.
It just comes to a little round bit now out of the ground, and that's granite, isn't it, or marble or something?
Yeah, I think it was either granite or marble.
I mean, in a way, that doesn't look that old, does it?
No, I mean it's smooth. There's like there's no dirt on it. It's like almost brand new, and that one was in the ground. And
then next to your metal one, you've got bricks built up as a grave. I mean, maybe that was a poor person, but even in these times, they usually have the poor people over there, the rich ones over there, and this is a mismatch of everything, isn't it?
Yes. And plus, a lot of these old ones around here, they're all on hilltops. Like, why are you burying people in the most ridiculous, hard place to bury people? I mean, I've seen them like 75 degrees or 65 degrees down this hill, and then they're burying people, or they did, the old graveyard. Supposedly.
Nothing adds up, does it?
It makes no sense again.
Well, nothing adds up.
No.
Well, I very much appreciate you having this chat with me. It's a bit of a shame it's come to an end, because I think we probably could talk for hours and hours, but...
Oh, I'm sure we could. My wife might get on to me, though. I got chores to do, right?
That's all right. I understand.
Thank you so much.
No,
Karen,
thank you so much. Well, maybe Christian will come on the next one.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I probably talked too much on that last one. That was my first time talking with y'all, but I loved
not
it.
at all. It's great. But next time you'll have had a bit of your drone footage, so that'll be interesting to look at that.
Yeah. I'll put a couple of those out or whatever, back at each other.
And I appreciate, because obviously you let me put your videos out, so I appreciate that.
Any of them you want to, just feel free.
Yeah, there you go. You've got stack of rocks, and then next to it you've got the metal one. They just don't go together, do they?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy, but anyway, Mark, I've really enjoyed this, and we will do it again. Don't go, but for this hangout, we'll say goodbye. Well, it's not goodbye, is it? It's just on till the next time.
Right.
Oh yeah, this has got acorns on it, or looks like acorns on the metal one.
Right, on the metal one, yeah, and those are in just about every graveyard I've been to. So. Yeah, I found it myself. Well, the ones where you could move the top, like the coffins, you could take the thing away and you could look at the people inside. I found all those about 6 months ago, a year ago, and I did a video about it, and I was like, wow. Because they almost look like they're deep-sea diver things or something. Yeah, right.
I think it's Roman.
Yes.
I think that's one of the Roman eras, but they don't tell us that, do they? Because they can't tell you Rome was in America, can they?
No, they can't tell you that.
Well, people have got maps showing all the different names, and that, like there are places where were called Rome in America, but right now, oh, there you go, the video's finished. I'll just stop the, it's going to leave it there. They can't tell you that it's, that's what it is. They can't tell you. No. Anyway, the video is finished at a very good time, and 10:10 till we do it again.
Right on. Thank you so much, Karen.
Oh no, thank you, Mark. Thank you. Mwah to Mark and mwah to the chat room.